Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. We are talking more about understanding why the Mandela effect happens, why deja vu happens, why we see ghosts or apparitions that are dressed in civil war or different types of apparel that isn't this time period, right? The many worlds theory, understanding parallel dimensions, portals, time warps, time holes, time loops, time travel, and how you can do it too. This channel, we're all about empowering ourselves. So I want to share 10 minutes. 10 minutes is all I ask for. This won't be a long one. 10 minutes.
There's no question the multiverse is having a kind of moment in popular culture. Marvel movies have been leaning into it. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, various Spider-Man movies, but also Rick and Morty and Everything Everywhere All at Once. You might think it's the fault of physics because physicists have been talking about a multiverse for a few decades now, both in cosmology and in quantum mechanics. But in fact, as often happens in Hollywood and elsewhere, you ignore what the scientists say and you do your own kind of thing. The kind of multiverse that is being used in Hollywood is more like the philosophical idea of the set of all possible worlds. It's clear why this would be so interesting to people because we've all made decisions. We've all wondered what life would be like if they were a little bit different. If an election had gone a different way, if our team had gone a different way, if we had not gotten hurt, if we had asked that person out for a date. And this sort of makes us think, well, maybe we're in the wrong universe. We're in the wrong timeline. There's another world out there. That's the one I want to be in. Now, science comes along, physics, my own field, and says, it's possible. There literally are other universes out there, places where things are different. But there's different ways in which science can lead us to the idea of a multiverse. I'm Sean Carroll. I'm a theoretical physicist and philosopher at Johns Hopkins University, and I'm the author of The Biggest Ideas in the Universe, Space, Time, and Motion. I think it's really important when we're thinking about physicists' versions of the multiverse to realize physicists never start out by saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if there were a multiverse? It is always the place they're dragged to kicking and screaming because they're trying to explain what we do observe. A big criticism of multiverse ideas is that you can't observe the multiverse. You can't falsify it, you can't test it, etc. But what you can do is observe what happens in ours. And what you want to do as a scientist is come up with a theory, which is a kind of a story, a theory that accounts for what we see, for the data that we can have access to.
Like
And
Mandela
some
effects.
theories, some very, very simple, very easy to write down theories, like the inflationary theory of cosmology or the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, they both explain what we see in our universe and unambiguously predict the existence of other universes. In cosmology, which is maybe the most famous one up until recently, there's literally just parts of our universe that are so far away where conditions can be radically different. They can either be kind of like us, but with different details, or even different laws of physics, different particles and forces, and the whole shebang. There's an entirely different conception called the many worlds of quantum mechanics, which is both in some sense more realistic and easy to bring into reality, but also more mind-blowing. It just says whenever you have a quantum mechanical system, which, spoiler alert, all systems are quantum mechanical at heart, but whenever you measure it in a particular way, you can get different possible measurement outcomes. This is something we've understood for 100 years now. The question is, what happens to the alternative measurement outcomes that you didn't observe? So if you have a particle, an elementary particle like an electron, and you're going to observe its location or its spin or something like that, the equations will tell you that certain outcomes are possible, certain outcomes are not. An electron is never going to turn into a proton. They have different electrical charges. That will literally never happen. But the electron could be spinning either clockwise or counterclockwise. And the many worlds version of quantum mechanics says both of those will generically come true in different universes. So this is literally a parallel universe. This isn't some place very, very far away. This is a simultaneously existing reality where the outcome of a quantum mechanical experiment turned out differently to ours. And if big noticeable things in the world depend on the outcome of that experiment, you could wind up in a very different looking universe. Human beings love to put themselves at the center of every story. So when you start talking about the multiverse and different ways things could have gone, they instantly start thinking, oh, if I had made a different decision, things would have turned out differently. And that's fine if you're just being philosophical and thinking about the space of all possible ways the world could have gone. But if you're thinking like a physicist, you solve the equations. It has literally nothing to do with human beings making decisions. If you think about
Huh.
the cosmological multiverse, the other universes are literally billions of light years away. They have nothing to do with you and your choices throughout the day. The quantum mechanics multiverse is a little bit of a different story because it does happen sort of everywhere. There's things going on that create two parallel realities. But the things that are going on are not human beings making decisions. They're
Yes, it is
subatomic particles being measured in some quantum mechanical way.
because of thought.
If anything, it's the quantum measurements that force you to make a decision, not your decisions forcing different universes to come into existence.
Wrong.
After all, you are a body made of a whole bunch of quantum mechanical particles,
After all,
electrons,
you
and protons and
are being
neutrons. If you
programmed to
choose to
believe you're
describe
less
yourself
than.
that way, there are different versions of you branching the universe. So then you have to ask, well, if I could have seen the electron spinning clockwise or counterclockwise and I saw it spinning counterclockwise, what is my relationship to the person who saw it spinning clockwise? Are they me, just in a different universe, or are they a separate person? I think the clear answer here is there's a relationship, but they're a different person. It's very much like identical twins. You have one fertilized egg, there's at one point in time a single cell that is one entity there in the universe, but it splits into two different people. I think that's how we should think about different versions of ourselves in the multiverse. They might share a past, but once they've diverged, once they're in a universe of their own, they are now separate people. It's not weird or impossible to contemplate.
Yes, but
It's just
no.
a slightly more sophisticated version of our notion of personal identity updated for the multiverse. I absolutely believe we can imagine thinking about the multiverse as a useful psychological tool or personal tool, right? Visualization exercises have been part of psychology for a long time. And so when we physically imagine ourselves embodied in a different set of circumstances, we think about that possibility differently. And the multiverse is sort of a nudge in that direction. And maybe you can argue that technology these days is making that more possible. We
Yeah,
see other
it is.
lives in a more vivid way than maybe we used to, with virtual reality, ways of thinking
But
about ourselves,
literally all
augmented.
of those technologies that are being created are a mimic or a copy, if you will, of nature's own abilities, including us. We're part of nature. The camera was made because of eyes and the way that eyes work, the rods and the cones and all of that, the light change and information, blah, blah, blah. Like all of it. Computers were made from our brains. Perhaps even the Hadron Collider was created because someone in the know realized that we do alter, create, manifest reality. That sure would be handy knowledge for somebody that wanted to have control of things.
Reality, just wearing a headset in the world that we're in. Apparently, there's a whole genre of Zillow porn, which is not actually pornography. It's just getting kicks out of looking at houses you can't afford on Zillow and
Uh,
imagining what it would be like to live
Window
there. We're
shopping.
sort of peeking into alternate realities that didn't come true. These could be
But they
both positive and
but
negative psychological
but
tools.
they didn't come true because you didn't believe that they could and you were satisfied with settling on the daydream or the window shopping, right? I mean, I literally know people who okay, Let me tell you about this one girl I know, this one lady I know. She saw this really beautiful red dress in a window of a shop as she walked by. A really beautiful dress. Not like the sexy go to the club kind. A really beautiful, decent dress. And she thought to herself, I really want to have that dress to wear to church. And for 3 weeks straight, every time she walked past that dress shop and saw that dress in that window, that's exactly what she would think. I really want that dress. Not, I wish I could have it, because saying I wish I can have it means that I can't. I just wish I could. She wanted it. She focused on wanting it. 3 weeks later, 3 weeks later, she had a friend come to her house and hand her $100 cash out of the blue and say to her, I know that it's really important to you to dress nicer for going to church. And I got some extra money and I thought of you and I brought you this money so that you could go buy you some new church dresses. True story. She manifested that shit with belief. We can all do this. We do it all the time. Don't limit yourself.
Tools, if we use them in the right way, by imagining the way things could have gone better and then saying, okay, what do I need to do to increase the chances that next time it actually will go better?
You
But
change your
it's
thought.
psychologically not healthy to push that too far because there are some
This guy,
decisions we
and
can
this guy is like devil's advocate, cheerleader of the naysayers and the fear porn to keep you what down, keep you suppressed, keep you from thinking that it's possible. Like science is discovering that the multiverses are real, but you have no control over it.
can't undo. This is why we talked about the serenity prayer, right? The ability to recognize what we can change, what we can't, and accept the things that we can't, as well as to be able to tell the difference.
Yep.
You can imagine in a
But that's the key.
multiverse
That's the
having made
key. Telling the difference, knowing the difference. Know thyself and you know thy difference. Know thyself. I don't know too many people that truly know thyself because we're still limiting things.
made all sorts of different decisions. But in fact, there's no such thing as time travel in the real world. You cannot actually go back and remake the decisions differently. It's fine to imagine all sorts of possibilities, but at the end of the day, we have to live and affect the universe that we're in. I
Do
like to
we?
think, maybe I'm being a physicist here more than a human being, but I like to think that by contemplating all of these different possibilities, past, present, and future, we can put things in perspective. We can think about how, yeah, there was that moment when things went terribly wrong. Either maybe I did something wrong or there was an unforeseen event that I couldn't have controlled. But you know what? The causal influence I have on the world only extends toward the future. The choices I can make right now will have an impact that I will feel down the road, but I cannot make a choice right now that undoes what happened in the past. I think this is a truth about
Okay, fair enough. We won't try to undo the past, but we can certainly believe in the now and the future and change that because it's about resolve and giving up and surrender and limits and begging or asking permission for it to be so. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully when I say to you, my 10-year-old child was in a car accident where she was T boned on her side of the car by a full size truck with an extended cab and a boat on a trailer behind it, going 60 miles an hour. She died 3 times. The doctor walked in and told me to come tell my child goodbye. They could not stabilize her to get her on a stat flight to the children's hospital. They gave up on her. They told me to give up on her. My free will said, "Ah, hell no. Not a chance. Not a chance of that." Now, most people, myself included, until I had learned what I had learned, would have dropped to my knees and started begging and praying. But I had learned already. And I dropped to my knees and I yelled, "Tell me what to do. You're not taking her." And a very loud voice replied back to me and said, "You know what to do," but with zero doubt. I'm trying to help you learn zero doubt.
About physics and cosmology and the world, and psychologically, it's a very important principle to keep in mind.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world's biggest thinkers.
And I just have to say, I don't know how you're getting smarter faster if they're trying to keep you dumbed down. And that is my personal opinion of this video, but I wanted to share it because he also knows the science that he was telling. And even when someone does something that isn't truth, they still have to give an ounce of truth to everything they do. Some kind of weird universal law built into our DNA template or something. You're all guilty of it and you know it. Even if you've tried to lie, you've had to give an ounce of truth. There's a reason for that. So, food for thought. This is part 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Share it far and wide. Let's wake up the world together because we are who we've been waiting for. Love and light.